Hey, everybody. Beards and Dunn are back again. Hey, Beards.
Don, how are you, buddy?
Couldn't be better. I'm on vacation. I'm actually recording this down at Atlantic Beach. We've got an oceanfront house. It's kind of a cool story. Karen and I were at a silent auction for the American Heart Association, several months ago. And a gal gave her beachfront house up as a prize. She donated.
Nice.
It's usually, $2,000 or $3,000 for a week to stay on the ocean, on the beach. And so it was a silent auction. And I thought, gosh, Karen, we've done this before. We've rented a house and then, split it with our families, our kids. And, it's kind of pricey to do it by yourself. So we started this auction out and we started bidding and it was silent. So you'd get on your phone and you'd see, I put in $1,500, somebody put in $1,600, I put in $1,700 and it got to $2,000. And I told Karen, and we had 30 seconds left and they said, get your last bid in. I said, Karen, we'll do one more. Cause I thought maybe the other family or couple will quit at 2.
Right.
So I put in 21 and we got it. And
nice.
So we are here. Our kids, Ben is here and Stephanie, his wife, Callie and John, our daughter and son-in-law, and Shauna and Nick and Landon, our other daughter, son-in-law, and grandson. We're all going to be here at the beach for a week.
How much fun is that going to be?
Oh, it's a riot. It's a riot. Now, fishing opener, was that today in Minnesota?
Yeah, May 13th.
Oh.
Today is a big fishing opener. And Mikey, that's something I always look forward to every year. In fact, we're one of the only states that has a closed season on game fish like walleyes and northern pike. And even from a biological standpoint, it doesn't really matter. You can, like in South Dakota, North Dakota, you can fish them all year long for the walleyes I'm talking. But in Minnesota, it is such a tradition. And I always open up on a lake just east of Bemidji called Big Lake. And the last couple of openers have been, the bite has been a little bit tough out there. The ice just went out about 10 days ago. And so that water's, that water's pretty cold. And, but the fishing will only get better. It's just good to get out there on the lake. And we're out there doing a little filming today and, the weather was nice. So, the fishing is back going strong here in Minnesota.
I can't imagine. I think in Minnesota, this is like a national holiday. Fishing opener, isn't it?
Oh, my gosh. It really is. It's something that a lot of the people, the only days they fish is today and then tomorrow. And, 9 years out of 10, the fishing opener is always on Mother's Day weekend. So, but I'll be out again tomorrow morning. But then Jill and I are going to go for a nice little bike ride tomorrow afternoon.
Good for you guys. All right. Well, let's see. I can't even hardly remember where we left off. Oh, that's right. You and I finally got to meet at South Dakota State in the fall of 1978 for cross-country season. And I guess, kind of picking off where that whole story left off, you got there, we met, started, you got introduced to the team, Mike and Mark Bills, Joel and Paul Brandt, Ken Cezadlo, Coach Underwood. And
Dan, let me just interrupt for a second.
Yeah, sure.
Because, you guys just took me under your wing so quickly, but I know this wasn't something we're gonna even on our little list to talk about. But it just hit me all of a sudden. Do you remember I'd been there maybe a week, and remember?
Oh yeah.
I took off. I loaded up all my bags and left.
Well, I was. It's not on our outline, but I was wondering if we should visit about that because here's my take on it. You were there, but I know and you've mentioned your dad. I met your dad. He was a great guy.
Yeah.
And but had some strong opinions, and
right.
He was a worker. I mean, he basically made his way in the world. I don't think anybody handed that guy anything. So here's his son. Kind of not really wanting to go to college, and then kind of doing it for the running side of it more than anything. And so I know that you and him and I know even Coach Underwood got involved. You want to kind of take it from there?
Yeah. So I remember my dad was just, kind of just didn't want me to be going out there, even though I was getting a partial scholarship and everything. And I just got out there and finally one day I remember waking up and I just packed all my bags. I don't think I told anybody. I just took off and went home. And that night I remember sitting around the supper table with my folks, and my dad might have had a martini or two that night. Anyhow, Coach Underwood talked, and gosh, my dad, I remember Coach Underwood talking to him, and the next morning, I remember getting up and I was going to go meet a guy in Rochester that had a dairy farm that was looking for somebody to kind of take it over. And I was planning to go down there. I wasn't going back to Brookings. And then about 11 o'clock that morning, I just thought about you and about the camaraderie that I'd made in such a short period of time with all of my other teammates. And I thought, I'm going back. And remember, I loaded my pickup truck and I was driving about 90 miles an hour. And I got out there for the afternoon practice. And I remember I felt like I was coming home from war or something. All you guys were, like, Beards is back. Beards is back.
It was, and my take on it was we kind of heard, I don't know if through Coach Underwood, that you had left or you had missed a workout. And so like that next day, I think we ran by your dorm and we looked through the windows of your dorm room because I think it was locked.
Right.
You couldn't get in your room and we looked through the windows. I remember it was Joel and Paul Brandt and I, maybe Mark Bills. I can't remember. There's a bunch of us and there was nothing in there. It's like,
no,
your stuff's all gone. And we couldn't find your pickup truck. Wasn't in the parking lot in the spot usually you had it sitting in. So we went over to the workout and we said, Beards is gone. And Undy's like, what? Beards is gone. We go, his dorm room's empty. And it was like, we were so disappointed. And I think that was the night he probably called your dad and looking for you and making sure you were, where did Dick disappear, and I know your dad and Undy had not probably the most cordial visit on the phone. But I think, Undy respected your dad as a, as older than him and that sort of stuff and kind of kept it on the QT. But and I can't remember the day, but we were at practice and you come running up to the Hyper Center.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it wasn't like, and I got to be honest with Dick, it wasn't like we were happy because, now we can do better as a team. Nobody was thinking about race results. We just really liked you. And we're disappointed that, gosh, we just got to meet this guy. He's a great guy. And now he's gone. And it was just like, man, it was so disappointing, but we're so exciting to have you back. And you kind of said, I'm back and I'm here to stay sort of thing. And
oh, for sure. Because, I felt the same way when it's like, man, I'm letting down these new teammates of mine and gosh, dang it. I'm going back out there, whether my dad likes it or not.
Well, I'm sure glad you did because we wouldn't be sitting here talking today
probably
if you wouldn't have. And I'm not sure you would have gone on to run a 208
absolutely.
Yeah. So things, isn't it kind of weird? And I talk to, I do cardiac rehab and work with heart and pulmonary patients that have some really tough situations, health issues, chronic health issues. And some of them get really depressed and, and down. And I've had people come back and said, and I know people are going to wonder how this is possible, said, that was such a, I don't know what you call it, pivotal moment. It's kind of like a reality check when your health and life is on the line and you start changing behaviors and attitudes. How I've had people, and I know you're going to call me a liar, said it was the best thing that ever happened to them, having a heart attack. And now that's a really positive person who could take something that negative. But because of the changes they made into their life, the lifestyle, the people that came into their life, because of that, they start reevaluating their priorities and things.
Absolutely.
It's life-changing for them. But kind of like, and I know you've said it, and it maybe seems small. Finishing a marathon can change your life because the kind of emotional, self-confidence and self-esteem that gives somebody, you kind of take the blinders off and the world is there at your fingertips.
No, sometimes.
Well, anyway.
Yeah. Well, we better get to talking about some other things here, Mikey.
Well, I was going to kind of just let everybody know, if you go to our website, On the Run with Beards and Dunn, I've got a post on there. It's under extras. If you click on it, it's kind of a synopsis of our season, and some photos and stuff. And so I even had to, as I went back and looked through some of the results, our first race of the year was up at St. Cloud Invitational, St. Cloud, Minnesota. And I had won the race the year before, which was like the only college race. And I won a bunch of races in high school, but when you get to college, it's a whole different playing field because runners in college aren't there just because they like running. It's because usually they really like running.
Absolutely.
It's not just a hobby anymore. And so you get nothing but serious people. Yeah. And our website's on, beardsanddunpod.com. But, I had won the race the year before, so I was coming back, and I was excited because I had a good experience about that race. And you were there, and I just remember this: your mom came,
Yes,
and watched, and that was so cool because you took me over to your mom's car and introduced me to your mom, and she was just the greatest gal, and so that was a treat for me. And so we're sitting there, before the race starts, man, some weather started rolling in. A cloud bank, and I'm not, Dick, you correct me if I over exaggerate. A freaking tornado.
That's right.
We were sitting on a van, and the freaking van slid in the parking lot. It actually moved with a bunch of runners in it.
I can't believe we had
didn't
that
tip
meet.
over. Oh, it was wind shear, torrential rain. This was like 15 minutes before the race was supposed to start, and then it blew through.
Right.
And it was like calm, and my gosh, everything was soaking wet. There were tree branches down. All the course markings, whatever course markings were supposed to be there, they were gone. And the coaches were like, well, gee, the weather looks good now. And
as long as we're here,
we might as well do this. And there was standing water, and we had to go through some mud puddles. There's some photos. I don't have them
it was
with me.
true cross country.
Oh, it was a real thing. Well, we take off, and it's on a driving training course. They had their cross country course was a driving course where they do like driver's ed.
Right.
And I don't know if the police department used it for evasive driving maneuvers, but it was a closed road course. But then we'd head off into these fields. There was I remember the sunflower fields. Well, anyway, we took off, and like at 1.5, 2 miles, Beards, you and I were up in the front row.
Yes.
And we were leading it, and I was the defending champ at this race, so I kind of felt it was my responsibility. I'm up front, and I'm trying to think, and I should remember this course. I ran it last year, and so we got off the road and headed into some dirt, which was now mud, and I took a left, and everybody, I didn't, I go, God, I think we go left here. And it was left or right. I went left, and Beard, you were right on my shoulder, and we ran about a half a mile into a fence.
Yes.
The road actually dead-ended. We should have taken a right when we took a left. Well, Dick and I go from first place to last place in a field of probably 100 and plus runners. Because when we hit that fence and stopped, well, it was kind of the trickle of the traffic jam behind us all. Well, the guy who was in last place, he turned around and he's in first place now. And so I'm like, when you're running and you're pretty intense, I was upset, because it's like, man, I can't believe, they had nobody at that corner. Oh, we were not happy. And, no markings because I think they got blown away in the tornado. Well, we're in last place, and everybody turns around, and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking, well, these guys should all run to the farthest point of the course like you and I did, and then we should be at the front. Right. Yeah, nobody. When they saw us go in the opposite direction, people were turning around, and they were heading back. Well, all at once, I thought, man, I think if we cut through this field, we'll be back on the course, back at the front where we belong. So I took off, and you were right with me, and I think Joel or Paul or a bunch of these guys, we started running through this field, and it was a sunflower field.
Yes.
Now, I'm from South Dakota. We don't grow sunflowers in South Dakota. We pick them out with bean hooks, because if you get sunflowers in your corn, that's not good. It drives down the price and all this kind of makes your corn dirty. But they were growing sunflowers up there for the oil or whatever they use them for. And in the fall, those giant sunflower heads, they droop. They're like they're dead. And they're right at about shoulder height. So we're running through a sunflower field as fast as we can between the rows, but I'm just getting nailed. And I know everybody was getting nailed by these heads of sunflowers.
Oh, and it hurt.
You try to dodge, you wouldn't let them hit you in the head, but they'd hit you in the shoulder. And it took forever to get through this field. And we finally popped out onto a road, and now there's runners ahead of us because I don't think it saved us hardly any time. And amazingly enough, I know Joel Brandt, I think, was our top runner that day, finished like third or fourth place. You were fifth place. I remember that. I thought, how in the heck Beards got from last to fifth? I got 12th. I remember that because and I was thinking, man, if I just
we did pretty darn good considering
we did good.
What happened.
Oh, it was. And so that was our first race of the season was very calm and close. No, it was kind of chaos. There were no team points, and that was okay. We would have won the team title because we had 5 of the top 11 places. I was just looking at the results.
Yeah.
Here. Well, then the next week we head over to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and it was the Midwest USTFF, which is United States Track and Field Federation. They all these old programs they don't even have anymore. I had a cross country championship, and there were some really good teams there. I remember Hal Higdon's son. I think his name was Kevin, won the race.
Yes.
And again, I think Joel Brandt was right up there, was one of our top runners. We took 6 out of the top 20 places, won the team title. And if they go on our beardsanddunpod.com, they'll see a photo of the team shot of us holding the trophy. The next week, and we raced, I think we had 10 races at cross country season.
And Don, they don't do that anymore.
Nah, I think it's 4 or 5 races.
I love that.
We raced twice a week because we had dual meets.
Yes.
The next meet was USD dual. We put 5 in the top 6. The only guy who broke up the perfect score for us was Dan O'Brien, and Dan is an outstanding runner. Yeah, he won our conference. He beat us all at our conference meet. So the fact that he broke into our top 5 is not that.
And that was
unusual.
always a big rivalry too. The Jacks against the Coyotes.
And when we duel them, we went down to their course that year because we'd go back and forth every other year, and they actually held it at the Yankton Mental Hospital, the South Dakota State Mental Hospital,
right.
on their grounds. And the joke always was, if you see somebody running out there with us that don't look like they're cross country runners, and there's guys in white coats chasing them, stay out of their way, stuff. But anyway, that's a whole. But I remember that race, Beards. It was like 90 degrees, hotter than blazes. You ended up winning it. I was in second place, and Dan O'Brien got me like in the last mile or two. I know you got first, I was third, and we won the dual meet easily. Then we had the Iowa State dual meet on our home course, and Iowa State had always drilled us. I mean, they had Jeff Myers, who unfortunately passed away in a plane accident when he was in college, was a sub 4-minute miler in college, and he was outstanding. And we'd run against him, and they almost perfect scored.
Well, and Dunn, they used to remember they had a number of East African runners, Kenyans on scholarship there.
Richard Katani, who won our dual meet, and there's a great picture of us running against him, and Dennis Barker, and Dennis is a good friend of ours from Minnesota. He was on that team, and so to beat Iowa State, that was great. We took 6 out of the top 8 finishers in that dual meet. We then went to the SDSU Invitational, and geez, Dick, do you remember who might have won the SDSU Invitational in the 1978?
Did I win that year?
You did, Beard. You set the course record.
That's right.
Up until then. Yeah. 30:51. So sub 5 minutes. And our course was not an easy course.
No.
It was rolling, and the wind was usually howling one direction or another. And you won it. We took 7 out of the top 10 places that day, and there's a great shot. We don't have a shot of you in that race, but there's a shot of me, Mark Bills, Joel, and Paul Brandt, a little group, a little nucleus of runners, and we were like running in 3rd through 6th place that day. I think Dan O'Brien, again, he was second behind you at the SDSU Invitational. And then we went to Wisconsin, and Wisconsin was a highlight of us. Back in the glory days when Gary Bentley and Kyle Wold and some of these really outstanding runners at SCSU, a lot of the Division I schools wanted Gary Bentley. He was such a great runner. They wanted him at their race.
And Gary was from Australia, right?
He was an Australian runner. He was, a high-level, Division I caliber runner.
He was good.
And they wanted him. And so they actually would invite and pay, kind of like they do with football teams. But Jay would take the cross country team to Madison, Wisconsin, and they would pay our expenses. They'd put us up at they actually the first few years put us up in dormitories, and I think so it was very good for the SDSU athletic department for us to go to that race. Plus, Jay liked taking us to that race because it was Hobo Day weekend. And I think Jay knew that Hobo Day weekend at South Dakota State University, nobody gets much sleep.
It's crazy.
Because it's homecoming, and it's a wild, wild affair. So he always scheduled the SDSU cross-country team to be out of town that weekend, which was kind of a bummer for the runners. But, we were there for the run-in, and we were okay with that. And so we'd go to Wisconsin. And, Wisconsin took the top 4 places. Mike Bills was the first non-Wisconsin finisher that race. As I look back at our results, it was amazing how we could go from, you being our top runner, Joel being our top runner. I think I was never higher than our second runner on a couple occasions. Mike was definitely occasionally our first runner, but not always.
Right.
Towards the end of the season, he was much more consistent. We had such a deep pool of talented runners.
Absolutely.
And it was kind of who was on good form that day. And, from week to week, your form would kind of flow and ebb and flow. We were always consistent, but, Mike ran really well there. He was 5th place overall. And I'm trying to remember, the Wisconsin won the meet. We were second.
I ran terrible.
You did not run well, and we'll get into that in a minute. We then had the University of Nebraska duel on our home course. We took top 4 out of 5 places. We actually took 10 of the top 14 places.
Wow.
So again, the University of Nebraska, a
Division
good program, a Division I, came to our home course, and I don't want to say we spanked them, but we ran well. We did good. And then we got to the conference regional meet, and I'm trying to remember where that race was.
It was in North Dakota. Wasn't it North Dakota State?
North Dakota State. Yep. And I'm going to tell you, this was the end of our season. We had 2 races left. The conference and region was run simultaneously. So the North Central Conference was held, and then there was regional teams that weren't part of the conference were there running. So we had like 2 results at the end of the race.
Right.
One was looking at our conference, and the second one was looking at the regional, where certain teams that weren't in our conference were also at the race. Well, anyway, let's cut it short. If you go to the photo on our website, you'll see the top 10 finishers of the North Central Conference. And out of the top 10, 7 of them are SDSU. And actually, out of the top 9 finishers, so what it was Dan O'Brien won the race. Mike and Mark Bills are 2nd and 3rd. Dick, you were 4th. Joel Brandt was 5th. I was 6th. Ken Zadlow was 7th. Paul Brandt was 8th or 9th. And Kurt Bacon was the first North Dakota State runner.
It didn't get
10th.
much better than that.
No, we took 7 of the top 9 in the conference. Actually, 7 of the top 10. Counting the Kurt Bacon in there. Just 2
Right.
USD runners, and Kurt Bacon broke us up. And so I mean that was domination to to take the conference, because our conference is always a good cross country conference. Then in the region, I think Mankato State, or there was because there were some Mankato guys. We took 7 out of the top 12 places, and so easily won the region, easily won the conference. And so we're heading into the nationals pretty on a high. We run really well, and so a week later, actually I think it was 2 weeks later, we head to Indiana, Pennsylvania for the national cross country meet, and Dick, do you want to take over and kind of just fill in everybody how we ended up 2nd?
Yeah, we got 2nd. And I remember it being such a hilly course, and I did not run very well that day, and you and I were kind of duking it out for.
Well, if you didn't run well, I was behind you, Dick. Well, actually, we finished 1 second apart, 55th and 56th place in the whole national meet. We're our number 4 and 5 runners. I'm going to throw Mike Bills, again, outstanding. His 3rd All-American performance. I think he was 10th that day. Mark Bill, or 7th, 7th place. Mark Bills, after running the year before on a broken foot, finished 21st. So again, his 2nd All-American finish. Joel Brandt,
what a stud.
He was. Well, Dick, Joel, and I were not feeling it. And I wish I could tell you what happened. Why did we run so well 2 weeks earlier, and then we get to this race, don't run well? If coaches could figure that out, they'd make these millions of dollars. But anyway, Joel, Dick, and I found ourselves kind of running in a little group, suffering. I don't know how to put it. I was running as hard as I could, and I was trying to. I remember saying, "Beards, go get him." And you're saying, "Done. I'm not feeling it. You go get him." And Joel Brandt, he's just hanging in there. And Undy, and if anybody knows Scotch Underwood, Undy goes a little nuts at cross country races. His voice usually is gone by the end of a race because Scott is a yeller, and as a runner, you're focused, you're in the zone, you really don't hear much. But trust me, I could hear Scott Underwood.
Me too. His voice.
You'd hear him across the court.
There was something about his voice that it was like, taking a whip to a horse to make it go quicker at the end of a race. You heard that voice, you better kick her into gear.
He was out there, and he was
I loved it.
It did, yeah. I would never say, please don't yell at me, Coach Underwood, because I don't think we'd have cared anyway. But Coach Underwood was out there, and he was watching us, and he knew we weren't running well. And Mike and Mark were doing their thing. They're in the top 20, top 25, that sort of thing. But the top 5 score, that's if you're going to finish in the anywhere near the front as a team, your 5 top runners have to run well, and we were not. And I remember with about a mile to go, Undy said, "You guys have got to move up." He already knew the team title was gone because Cal Poly SLO, they were good. Obviously out of California. They took 4 out of the top 8 places that day. And their 5th guy was 27th, just out of All-Americans. So they had 4 All-Americans. They had 4 of the top 8. They almost perfect scored the meet. And then their fifth guy was right up there, right behind Mark, actually. So Undy knew we were not going to win this race. And, I actually went back, Dick, and if you and I and Joel would have ran with Mark Bills.
Yeah.
And let's say we would have all finished All-Americans, 21st, 22nd,
Right.
23rd, and 24th. So we would have just had a great day. We're running the top 2 through 5 runners are running All-American performances. Cal Poly SLO would have drilled us. We couldn't have finished first because when they put 4 in the top 8.
That's amazing.
And, like I said, I think Mike might have been 7th place. Even if we would have been right behind Mike,
right?
I think we couldn't have beat them because
No.
they were just so good and so talented. But then he's thinking, okay, first place is gone. We're not looking at 2nd, 3rd, 4th. We need top 5. If Mike, Joel, and Dick don't do something in this last mile, you can do the math. When you're in 50th place times 3, that's 150 points right there on 3 guys. Well, Undy's going nuts, and he says, you guys have to move up. You have to move up. And I kid you not, I was done. I was trying to hang on to you, Dick. And I think you were kind of hanging on to, we were kind of feeding off each other, just trying to encourage each other. Well, I just have to be honest. I just remember Joel Brandt took off.
Yep.
And, and he started moving up. And I remember Undy's like, go with him. And there was no going with Joel. And in 1 mile, Joel moved up to 41st place, I think, if I remember right. And we were in 55th and 56th. So do the math. He passed, because he was right there in front of, he was with us. In the last mile, he probably passed 12 or 13 runners. Now, if anybody's run races competitively, 10Ks, moving up in the last mile, unless you've really held back, you've been keeping your, saving that reserve, you're smiling, you're going, I'm just going to wait till the last mile and beat these guys. No, we were all hurting, and Joel didn't care. Joel just put his nose into the wind, and he took off, and he disappeared. I couldn't even see the guy. He was passing runners, and I couldn't even see him. There was runners between him and me now. And I remember, we finished in 55th, 56th place, went through the finish chute, and and I was pretty bummed, and I don't think you were too excited. Race results are tabulated. South Dakota State University finishes 2nd place by like 2 or 3 points over like the 3rd,
Thanks
4th,
to
and 5th
Joel.
place team. Thanks to, Mike Bills, Mark Bills, obviously.
Right.
Thank you, Mike and Mark, for
sure.
doing your thing. Joel Brandt, we would not have finished probably in the top 5 unless he passed those 10 to 12 runners in the last mile. And we were like, Joel, dude, I don't know how you did it, but thank you. Good job. And I know Joel, the rest of the day, we were pretty on a high. We got 2nd in the national meet. And he was like pretty philosophical. He goes, you guys, we couldn't have won. So don't beat yourselves up too bad. Because, that Kyle Poly SLO was so dominant. Well, long story longer, Joel had a migraine headache. I think the guy almost gave himself a stroke. I don't know what his blood pressure must have been in his brain that last mile.
He ran out of his shoes.
He ran out of his shoes. And I tell you, it was an all-American effort. And I think Joel went on and got some all-American title, notoriety later in his career. But that day to me, he impressed the heck out of me. And Dick, I appreciate, you and I hung, we did what I don't think anybody passed us in the last mile, but we weren't catching anybody. We were just hanging on for dear life. And hey, things turned out. We ended up 2nd in the national meet. There's a nice team photo on our website if you want to look at that. I think we got enough time for one last little bit of a story. And we're going to go back to that Wisconsin Invitational on Hobo Day weekend. And I'm going to start it, and I'm going to let Dick kind of take off. Dick was an RA, resident assistant at the dormitories. It was part of his work-study scholarship, I think, that you got to be, to help you cover your expenses. And the dormitory directors all made the decision, and maybe this was historical. The resident assistants on Hobo Day Friday night are in the dorm, basically guarding their dorms, because kids on Hobo Day, on homecoming, they get a little wild.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They'll paper their dorm. They'll do stuff, that they're kind of mischievous. And they weren't going to, and Hobo Day, if people don't know, it's the homecoming, the Jackrabbits. And I don't even know the traditional, where hobos became kind of the homecoming mascot. But it's tradition.
It's a weekend party.
It's a weekend party. And Dick was told by he would be in the dormitory Friday night. Well, we're driving to Madison, Wisconsin Friday afternoon for our race on
Yeah,
Saturday.
they wouldn't let me
said,
go.
well, they wouldn't let Dick go. And Coach Underwood, to his credit, said, we've got this outstanding team, and we're developing. We need Dick to be on our team. And so he went to the athletic director, and I think it was Harry Manshine at the time. And I don't know how Andy did it, but the SDSU athletic department chartered a plane.
A private
plane. A private plane. And Dick was in the dorm Friday night. Dick, I don't know if you got any sleep Friday night or very little, guarding the dormitory because you had an all-male dorm. And so what time did you have to get on that airplane?
I think 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, something like that.
Because, the airplane can maybe fly 150 miles an hour, 170.
Yeah, well, just a small four-seater.
Yeah. And so it's not like a jet that's going to get you there in an hour.
No.
But it's probably a couple-hour flight. You had to land, and Don Lee was our assistant coach, a graduate assistant. You had to be escorted. They couldn't let an athlete fly alone. An assistant coach, a graduate assistant, somebody had to be a chaperone. And so he flew with you. And then Undy, I remember we got up, had a little breakfast. I think he dropped us off at the course, headed to the airport to get you, and got you to the course in time to do a little bit of a warm-up.
Just a little bit.
And the gun went off, and there's some photos I haven't posted them because Dick and I look like fish out of water gasping for air. It's one of the few, and I'm not bragging. I think I ended up 12th at that race, and I think, Dick, you ended up 20th, if I remember correctly.
I had a bad day.
You were our fifth man, and we got second to the University of Wisconsin. Wouldn't have mattered one way or the other. Well, we did a 2.5-mile warm-up. We did a 5-mile race. We did a 2.5-mile cool-down. That was kind of our tradition.
Yeah.
Warm-up, race, cool-down. And then we, got loaded up in the van, and we took you and Don Lee back to the airport to catch the flight back to Brookings. And then the rest of us were going to hit the road, Madison, Wisconsin to Brookings. And so when we got to the airport,
drive.
Oh, it's 5 hours, solid 5 hours. And we're leaving in the afternoon now. And so we're not going to get back until it'll be dark probably. And there we noticed, and you mentioned the plane was a 4-seater, and the pilot, you, Don Lee, the assistant coach, a grad assistant, and there was an empty seat.
Right.
And so we said to Undy, we go, well, look, there's an empty seat that's already been paid for. We should, and I kind of said, I think one of us seniors should get to fly back.
Yeah, the senior name, Mike
the
Dunlap.
Seniors, well, there were only 3 seniors on the team that year. Oh, there were 4. And all the rest of the teams, and the girls' team was with us. They're all like, yeah, no, that's not right. We're not just letting some senior fly back. And so we said, well, let's, the only fair thing to do is let's draw straws, or we had cards. We always played cards. So let's draw cards, and the high card will get the seat and get to go back,
right.
Be back in that afternoon, a couple hours, you'll be back in Brookings, where the rest of us will be not even halfway home on the van ride. And I'm thinking, oh man, my girlfriend Karen, and Dick was dating his first wife Mary at this time, and so our girlfriends were waiting. In fact, they're going to be picking Dick up at the airport because they knew he was flying back. And I'm thinking, I got to get on that plane, and so we start shuffling cards, and everybody's starting. And we said, well, what if 2 people draw aces? Well, Ken Cezadlo, who's the smartest guy on the team, he had this hierarchy, like, hearts beats diamonds, diamonds beat spades, ace of club wins, if there's 2 aces
and
drawn
Dan,
or whatever.
weren't you, before we even started drawing
I was
cards,
offering money.
Yes.
I was offering money. I said, look, if anybody wins this, I will pay you. And I was thinking how much money I had in my checking account. I had $50. I said, I'll pay you $50.
Right.
I'll pay $50 for anybody who wins this, because I'm not feeling that confident. And some of the girls, I remember I think they didn't care. They go, yeah, Mike, $50. I'll sell you if I win it, I'll sell it. Some of the guys were like, no way. I want to get back too. And I was like, oh man. So I grabbed a card. Everybody's flipping their cards over finally. And somebody had like the ace of diamonds, and I can't even remember who it was. And they all said, well, and the only thing you could win was the ace of spades.
And the only one that hadn't flipped their card yet was done.
Because I was saying, and everybody was gathered around, and they're looking. I turn my card over, and it's the ace of spades.
Oh my gosh!
And Dick and I we jumped. We were hugging like little schoolgirls, jumping up and down.
We were.
And everybody
else,
high-fiving. They were kicking
everybody
dirt.
else could not believe it.
Well, I wanted it so bad. I was like the last guy they wanted to get it. No, I shouldn't say. We all loved each other, and everybody got along.
No, but they didn't want you to get it because they knew you and I were such good buds.
They did. It was almost like, well, God, those guys are making us sick. All they do is hang out together with their girlfriends. And I got the freaking flight. And we got on the flight. I had a smile, the biggest smile on my face.
Oh.
We didn't run that great, but we didn't care that day. We were getting on
No.
the plane and flying home. And Beards, you want to say how we enjoyed that flight?
Well, did we
Do you remember it?
Well, kind of. Did we have a little bit of a problem at one point or something?
All I remember is that sucker took off, and the guy was a great pilot, I guess. We flew into a cloud bank, and I couldn't see nothing except white. It looked like you're inside of a cotton ball, and it's a single prop, little airplane. And I just remember I've been in jets, commercial flights. This thing just rocked back and forth like a rowboat, like a canoe. It's like canoeing. You're never feeling really that secure in a canoe. Well, in a single prop airplane, I was about ready to puke. I mean, I was like, I couldn't see. The plane's rocking.
It was
For all
nasty.
I know, we're flying straight into the ground. I don't know. I just remember I put my coat up over my head.
That was scary, Don.
About it. It was a scary flight. Well, anyway, we buzzed the stadium as the Hobo Day football homecoming game was ending, and we landed. Our girlfriends pick us up. I even have a picture of me getting out of the plane that my girlfriend my wife took. And we then go, great. We head back to our dorms. Our girlfriends, we're making plans for the evening. Well, Dick and I, we have to go for a run. We're home in the afternoon and it's early and we ran the race this morning. So we go out for an easy 5-mile run. Told our girlfriends we're going to order pizza. We'll be over to the dorm like at 6 o'clock, 6:30. We'll order pizza. And we went out, did our easy 5. So, okay, we got 15 miles in for the day. And we have to do a 20-miler the next day on Sunday. And so we hang out with our girlfriends and we started playing board games, the game of life. I remember we played the game of life. We ordered pizza from George's Pizza, which is a traditional pizza place. They cut the pizzas into squares.
Right.
I've never seen
Great
that anywhere
pizza.
else except, great pizza, but they don't cut them into like pizza
triangles.
Pies. Cut them, they don't cut them into triangles. They cut them into squares. But we're eating pizza. It's like midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. We're just hanging out with our girlfriends. And finally, it's starting to catch up with us. And we're in the girls' dorm. And you're not supposed to be in the girls' dorm after midnight. So what you do, you'd look down the hallway. Your girlfriend would look down the hallway and go, yeah, it's clear. And the guys would book to the fire escape. And you'd hear because you didn't want the girls getting in trouble for boys being in the room. They'd get rid up or something. And you'd hear the fire doors boom open as the boys would run out of there. And so Dick and I leave. We get out of there. It's like 3 a.m.
Yes.
I am not exaggerating. We're going, man, I'm tired. And you said, me too. And we go, well, let's get back to our rooms, get some sleep, and we'll go for a 20-miler tomorrow because that was on our training plan. And so we're leaving we could walk through campus together. And then your dorm is on the west side. Mine is on the south side. And we had to split. It's like, Beards, I'll see you tomorrow. Let's run it like noon or something. We'll do our 20-miler. Yeah, okay. And Beards, I swear, I don't remember if it was you or me, but we got about 50 yards apart, and one of us turned to the other.
It was me.
And you go, done. Let's just do it now, and then we can sleep all day tomorrow. And I'm thinking, that's a great idea. We're awake. It's like 3:30 in the morning. It's cool.
Yeah.
And, let's just go do a 20-miler. We'll get it done. We'll be done by like 6:30. And then we don't have to run tomorrow. We got our work done. It's already Sunday anyway. It's like, okay, Beards, I'm heading over I'm going to get my stuff. I'll meet you at your room. And he goes, all right. So I head to my dorm, throw a bunch of my some clean shorts, my socks, my running shoes, head all the way across campus. Dick's in his dorm room now, looking for a dry pair of socks or something that he can wear. So I get to the room and I'm going to change into my running stuff and Dick's changing. And Dick, do you want to take it from there?
So Mike and I are in my dorm room and it's dark out and I didn't have my shades pulled down or nothing like that. So
ground floor.
So anyhow, Mikey and I, or Dunn and I we're getting dressed. So we're standing there. We're both buck naked, looking for our running stuff. And I happen to grab a jar of Vaseline.
Why would you grab that jar of Vaseline, Dick?
I was going to lube my toes up or something. I think I might have had some blisters on them.
Well, and chafing in the inside of your legs.
So all of a sudden, like Mike is bent over buck naked in front of the window, reaching down to get a pair of socks or something. I'm standing right behind him, buck naked, with a jar of Vaseline in my hands. And
the window shades up.
With the window shades up, and we both kind of looked and thought, oh my God! We went and pulled the window shade down, and oh my
I
God.
think you pulled the window shade so hard it pulled the
Yes.
roll off the window, and we had to like put the window shade back on the window. And it's like if anybody had been walking by that window at 4 a.m, Hobo Day weekend, this would have made the school paper. Let me just put it that way, because it was.
Done. I tell you what, for sometimes out of the blue, that memory comes back into my mind, and it could be in the middle of the night, and I'll wake up laughing.
Dick and I swore each other. Seriously.
Yes.
We closed that window. We got our stuff on, and we sit there for a minute. And we go, Dick. I said, we cannot tell anybody this story ever, because he goes, it's just not. It's just this. We just can't.
And especially back in those days.
Oh yeah, and he goes, no, done. No, we'll never bring this up. And we had a birthday party for Bob Bartley on it. This was 20 years ago. It was his 75th birthday, and I remember you and I made it back to South Dakota State. And we actually told that story to our alumni at our alumni get-together. And this is the second time. And so, yeah, we've grown up in our comfort with our male sexuality and all this. Now, the long story, the finish of the story, we actually went out and did a 20-mile run. It was 4 a.m. And, Dick and I are so enthusiastic. I don't remember being tired. We were jacked up. We were ready to go run. And we said, where should we go? And I said, well, let's run out to Lake Campbell. It's 10 miles out, 10 miles back. He was, great idea. It's dark. I don't think it was moonlit. It was starlit. I remember the stars were out. And think about this. We had run 15 miles that day. I doubt we drank we didn't drink any water. We're on an airplane. We sat there and ate pizza. We probably drank a few Cokes with pizza. Pizza was so salty. Well, we ran 10 miles in the dark to Lake Campbell. There's a golf course there. And I was parched.
Me too.
Oh, my God. I couldn't even spit. And it was pitch black. And I told Dick, I said, Dick, there's got to be a water fountain around this clubhouse. They have to water the grass around here. And I kid you not, we got down on our hands and knees, and I was feeling on the wall of the clubhouse because it was dark. I couldn't see. And we found a spigot, a water, because we knew there had to be a water spigot on this building. We turned the spigot on, and the water comes shooting out, and we cupped our hands. And on our hands and knees, we slurped down, enough water to quench our thirst, but not enough to give us a gut ache. And we shut the water off, got up, turned around, and ran the 10 miles back to our dorms, to your dorm. And I remember it was 6 a.m., 6:15. Yep. We probably averaged about 6:30 pace. And the sun was coming up as we got into downtown Brookings, and we headed straight to your dormitory. And we got into your dorm. It was like 6:30. Beards, I said, and he had a bunk bed.
Yes.
He had a room. I crawled into his top bunk, didn't shower.
No.
I took off my shoes and socks, took off my T-shirt. I crawled up there. Dick threw a pillow and a sheet on me. I passed. It was 6:30. I fell asleep, and he crawled in. I don't know if you even showered.
No.
I was so and I remember I woke up at noon, so we got about 6 hours, 5.5, 6 hours, and I was so hawking hot because the sun was up, and I was laying up there, and I'm all salty and I'm sweaty and I'm on the top bunk. Oh, I got out of there. I think I walked back to my dorm, showered. Well, not to. We ran 35 miles in a 24-hour period with zero sleep. Definitely not enough fluids in us. And when you're 21 or 22, it just seemed like a good idea at the time. Yeah. Look, and I know the next week or two, I know I ran poorly with the Nebraska duel. I know I think it really did not help us.
Oh, no, I think it kind
of the few
nailed us a little bit.
Oh, it did. And, and at the time you might think, what were you guys thinking? We just thought that was what we had to do. It was I said, if the coach would have said, jump off that wall, we would have jumped, but we had to do a 20-miler.
And done, you're when you're 21, 22 years old, whatever we were at the time, it's like, you feel like you could run through a brick wall and, that's the kind of things we did back then. So it was all good.
I know. Dick, we can look back at it and laugh now, but I don't think we'll laugh. We weren't laughing that day after that 20-miler.
But Mike,
it's a great. We created a memory. Let me tell you.
Yeah, absolutely, and we appreciate everybody listening in today. And we got a lot more things coming up here in our next podcast coming up.
This is the beginning.
We want to thank you guys for listening. And if you have any questions for Dunn and myself or comments about the show, you can contact us directly at our website at beardsanddunpod.com or leave us a comment on your Facebook, Instagram, I should say on our Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Beards and Dun Pod !
I love it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to hit the like and comment. And we'd love if you subscribe. Anyway, thanks everybody for if you tuned in and sat through this. I hope you hope you got a little something out of it. Dick, good luck fishing, and I'm going to be at the beach.
Yeah, enjoy the beach.
All right, Beards.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week, buddy.